Do you ever feel anxious, unsettled, or even deeply sad every time your parents argue? I used to think it was just me being sensitive, but over time I realized something deeper was happening. The place that was supposed to feel like home, like safety, slowly became a space where I felt emotionally unsafe. When I heard people talk about depression, I used to wonder if I had it too. But I kept brushing it off because, after all, I had parents, a roof over my head, food on the table. So what was I complaining about? That is the trap many of us fall into. We think our pain is not valid just because someone else might have it worse. But the truth is, depression does not care how much money you have, what school you go to, or whether your parents love you. It creeps in anyway. Even Angelina Jolie once shared how her difficult relationship with her father triggered depression and self-hatred starting in her teenage years. And she was a successful actress at the time. If someone like her can feel hollow despite having everything, then maybe what we feel is more common than we think. Depression does not ask for permission. It finds cracks, especially in the relationships that are supposed to support us. And the hardest part, when the very people we love the most unknowingly make it worse. Fighting depression is already exhausting. It drains your energy, numbs your emotions, and makes even the simplest things feel like climbing a mountain. But when you are stuck in an environment where no one understands what you're going through, it becomes even more damaging. That is how it felt for me. I lived in a home full of people, yet I felt more alone than I ever thought possible. My parents love me. They feed me, clothe me, and check in on my grades. But when it came to my emotional world, they just could not meet me there. They responded to my sadness with confusion or even irritation. They called it laziness, moodiness, or attention-seeking, but it was none of those things. I was quietly battling something they had never learned to name. And because they could not name it, they could not support it. When parents lack emotional awareness or emotional intelligence, they often approach mental health as if it is a puzzle to be fixed with logic or rules. But depression is not logical, it is emotional, and more than anything, it needs empathy. I remember once opening up to my mom, telling her I felt empty and tired all the time. She said maybe I was spending too much time on my phone, or maybe I was being ungrateful, and I get it. She probably felt powerless hearing me say those things and wanted to find a quick fix, but what I needed was not a solution. I needed understanding. I needed her to say, "I hear you and I am here." Instead, I started questioning myself. I thought maybe I was wrong to feel what I felt. That is called emotional invalidation. When the people around you deny or minimize your inner experience, your brain starts to internalize that message. You begin to doubt your own emotions, suppress them, and eventually disconnect from them entirely. That is when numbness sets in. Emotional numbness is one of the most painful aspects of depression. You stop feeling joy, but you also stop feeling grief, excitement, or connection. You just exist. And when that happens inside a home that is supposed to be your foundation, your nervous system adapts by staying in survival mode. It is called chronic emotional dysregulation. You are either always on an edge or completely shut down. Over time, your body starts to treat emotional pain as a threat, just like physical danger. That is how trauma forms. And it does not need to come from abuse. It can come from being consistently unseen or unheard. When your feelings are constantly dismissed or misunderstood, your mind gets the message that your emotions are not safe to express. So you bury them, you perform, you smile, you get the good grades. But deep down, a silent sadness grows. And without intervention, it can evolve into chronic depression. That is what happened to me. And I had no words for it back then. I just knew that I was tired all the time, that nothing made sense, and that the more I tried to reach for help, the more it felt like no one was listening. Especially not the people I needed the most. There were 5 things my parents did that slowly made my depression worse. None of them were done with bad intentions, but they had real consequences on my mental health. The first was constant comparison. It started when I was a kid. Why are you not more like your cousin? Look at your friend, they always get good grades. I heard it so often that I started saying it to myself. Why am I not smarter or more motivated or more social? Why am I like this? Comparison was supposed to motivate me, but what it did was make me feel like I was never enough. That is the danger of repeated comparison, especially during adolescence, when our sense of identity is still forming. It teaches you that being yourself is not acceptable, that someone else is the standard and you are just not meeting it. Over time, this damages your self-worth and creates deep insecurity. The second thing was emotional dismissal. Whenever I tried to talk about what I was feeling, they would either wave it off or change the subject. If I said I was sad, they would say, "Go eat something." If I said I was anxious, they would say, "Stop thinking too much." They never meant harm, but their responses taught me that my emotions were inconvenient, that expressing how I felt made things worse for everyone. And so I stopped sharing. I learned to keep things inside. That is emotional suppression, and suppressed emotions do not disappear. They stay in your body building pressure until one day they explode through panic attacks, breakdowns, or numbness. The third behavior was guilt tripping. My parents never directly said I was a burden, but their words hinted at it. Things like, "We are all tired, but you do not see us acting like this," or "Your mood affects the whole family." Those statements made me feel ashamed of how I felt. They made me think that my depression was a selfish act that hurt the people I love, and so I apologized constantly. I smiled through pain. I tried not to take up space, but inside I was collapsing. This is how guilt internalized over time becomes toxic shame. You do not just feel bad about what you did, you feel bad about who you are. The fourth thing was being overly strict. My parents thought structure would help me. And yes, structure is good, but control is not. I was not allowed to see friends often or go out much or even express disagreement. Every decision was made for me. Every action monitored. It felt like I was living in a box with no way to breathe. This level of control in teenagers leads to what psychologists call learned helplessness. When you are constantly denied autonomy, you begin to believe that your choices do not matter, that you have no control over your life, and that belief is at the core of depression. The final thing was scapegoating. In every argument, I somehow became the cause. If my parents fought, it was because I stressed them. If my sibling misbehaved, I was blamed for being a bad influence. Over time, I started to believe that I was toxic, that I ruined things without even meaning to, and that belief made me isolate myself. I stopped asking for help. I stopped trying to connect. Because deep down, I thought I did not deserve connection. These 5 patterns may seem small or even common in some households, but their psychological impact is huge, especially when repeated over time. They challenge how we see ourselves, how we relate to others, and how safe we feel in the world. And the saddest part is most of it happens before we even have the language to describe it. All we know is that something hurts, and we carry that hurt silently until it becomes too heavy to hide. So what can you do when the people who are supposed to support you are actually making it harder to heal? That was the question I sat with for a long time. And the truth is, there is no perfect answer. But what I found is that healing can still begin even in an environment that hurts you. It starts with recognizing that your feelings are real. You do not need anyone else to approve them for them to be valid. That simple shift saved me. I began journaling every day just to keep track of how I felt. I was not trying to fix anything. I just wanted to understand what was going on inside me without judgment. That is the foundation of self-awareness. The more I wrote, the more I realized I was carrying pain that did not even belong to me. I was carrying my parents' fears, their expectations, their unhealed wounds. And it made me ask myself, what is mine and what is not? That question helped me reclaim parts of myself I had buried. Another thing I started doing was practicing boundaries. Not the kind you announce loudly, but the quiet inner ones. Like choosing not to share something personal when I already knew it would be dismissed. Like walking away from a conversation that was turning toxic. Like reminding myself I am allowed to protect my peace. Setting boundaries in a strict family can feel terrifying. You might feel guilty or disloyal, but boundaries are not rejection. They are protection. And the more you practice them, the more your nervous system begins to feel safe again. I also reached out to one teacher at school, someone I trusted. I told her about my anxiety. She did not try to fix me, she just listened. That was the first time in a long time that I felt truly seen. If you cannot get support at home, you are still allowed to find support elsewhere. A friend, a mentor, a counselor, even a community online. You deserve to be heard. Another thing that helped me was learning about emotional regulation. Instead of suppressing everything, I began using tools like deep breathing, box breathing, grounding techniques, and positive self-talk. I stopped blaming myself for everything I felt and started becoming more curious about my emotional patterns. That is called emotional literacy, and it is a game changer. Lastly, I reminded myself that I do not have to become like the environment that hurt me. I can break the cycle. I can grow into someone who offers safety, not shame, love, not fear, understanding, not control. You may not have power over your parents' words or actions, but you do have power over the meaning you give them. And you have power over the way you choose to care for your own mind, heart, and body. That is not rebellion, that is healing. If no one has told you this before, let me be the first. You are not broken. You are not a burden. You are not too much. You are a human being doing your best to survive in a world that does not always understand your pain. I know what it feels like to grow up craving comfort and getting silence, to ask for support and receive guilt, to show emotions and be told to hide them. It took me years to realize that the way others treat my pain does not define whether that pain is real. It is real, and it matters, and so do you. If you are living in a home that feels emotionally unsafe, I want you to know that you are not weak for feeling what you feel. You are wise enough to notice it, strong enough to name it, and brave enough to want more. Healing from depression does not always mean fixing your entire life. Sometimes it means taking one breath, one journal entry, one quiet act of self-kindness at a time. Sometimes it means letting go of the hope that your parents will suddenly understand and instead giving yourself the love they could not offer. And sometimes it means choosing to become the person you needed when you were younger. I know this path is not easy. There will be days when everything still feels heavy, but even in those moments you are growing, you are learning, you are becoming. So if this video spoke to something inside you, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice might be the comfort someone else needs today. And if no one has said this to you yet, I am proud of you, for surviving, for feeling, for still being here. You deserve safety, you deserve peace, you deserve to feel seen and supported. And if you want more content like this to help you along your healing journey, make sure to like this video, subscribe to High Day Psych, and come back tomorrow. We are here with you every step of the way.